I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV Velocities in Music, the best kept secret in music reviews. Self-proclaimed. We're going to review an album called Wooden Head by the Proper Ornaments. And I actually have never heard of the Proper Ornaments before. They just released this album and I previewed a few tracks and thought that they had a really cool sound. And getting into their sound, let's just dive right into it, Tom.
Do it.
Are you worth it at all? Are you worth anything?
Why are you just questioning my self-value in front of everyone?
Let's just say that Wooden Head is getting me questioning a lot of things around here.
Okay.
First of all, this sound. I was initially very intrigued by this sound because it has a lot of just nostalgic value for me. First of all, I would say that this is definitely in the vein of like neo-psychedelic music. I hear a lot of like early space rock, almost like early Pink Floyd.
Very much so.
You know, oftentimes, you hear a lot of like just whimsical guitar lines, a little bit of keys in there. It just has that like Pink Floyd. Like I'm thinking like the vocals on Meddle. Like I'll really kind of paint a picture for how the vocals on this album are throughout the album. Now these guys are doing a bit more. It's obviously a bit better produced, being made in the 2010s decade. But you have like these slow-moving guitar parts that are quite pretty, bass, drums, and then just kind of those smooth, soft, neo-psychedelic vocals that you're hearing a lot of nowadays. Bands like Tame Impala, who are obviously a bit more progressive than this. But Tom, what was your take on Wooden Head and the sound here?
Yeah, well, the sound it reminded me of some stuff that we've reviewed, more from modern artists, but they're the kind of modern artists that do take a lot from that 60s and 70s era. I think of like maybe a less noisy Crystal Stilts, who remind me a lot of the Doors. I can hear some of that in here. No Age, if they were a little less punky and noisy. But I heard a lot of that in the songwriting, but very much so in the vocals is particularly. Even like the Zombies. We reviewed Odyssey and Oracle a long time ago. In the guitar work and the vocal presentation, I hear a lot of that band. So there's definitely that throwback sound, but I think really where they're mixing it up a bit is just in their execution and their presentation of that, because it's not made to sound sweet. No. But it's not overly dark. And that's where I realized, like, I feel like this album's in this middle ground, kind of like purgatory, where it's not so slow that it sounds brooding, but not so upbeat that it sounds happy. It's just this kind of weird, like they took some Prozac and are just kind of mellowed out or something.
Or marijuana. Or to be more accurate.
I was thinking more antidepressants, but that works too. Anything that'll just knock you out and make you level-headed.
And I would say that lethargic would be a good word to describe this.
Very much so.
And it's not like it's without pop hooks, but as you said, it's just not overly upbeat or overly overwhelming. In fact, the songs that were more upbeat were the ones that became my favorite. Songs like track 2, Sun, which you also picked. Magazine, which had an MBV sort of feel to it, but also Stereo Lab, that was a good song, I thought. And you picked a couple on the beginning of the record too. Ruby, a more poppy track.
Really nice guitar.
Usually when they infuse a bit more energy into their songwriting, I felt like it really worked. There were times though where it didn't. Now Ruby was probably the biggest sonic shift that I heard on this record. Also, there's a track 9, Tire Me Out, used a drum machine and had kind of like dual acoustic guitar and organ, and so that was a bit different. But otherwise, it stayed true to that core sound throughout the entirety of this record. And I think it's a very focused sound, but sound in having a very chiseled, focused sound at the expense of songwriting is never a good thing according to my standards. And I would say that, just to jump into a criticism here, I totally feel like Wooden Head violates that sound over songwriting, Catch-22 or Pandora's Box. Like, how do you do both? How do you have a super specific sound and also have great songwriting without being too expansive and abandoning that super specific sound? It's kind of a tough challenge for any band in this modern era to do, because there's so much, and these guys are trying to make their music sound unique. They're attempting to. I don't know if they're entirely successful, and it's tough to do because so much music has been created, and now in this day and age when we all carry around laptops that you can just plug your instruments into and record, you don't even need instruments and you can make an album right now. How, of course, it's going to be hard to make new original music or take old music in with your influences and then make it sound new. Which I would say that Wooden Head is definitely closer to taking like old ideas and trying to put a new spin on them.
Exactly.
And I just don't feel like they make it their own enough, and nor do they make a unique album listening experience out of it.
And nor do I think they really make it all that much quality. I think that the main things that they're changing about it are the things that I don't like.
Right.
For me, and this is going to sound pretty harsh, but it's like they're taking this classic sound and just making it worse in their own way.
Making it more simple.
Yeah,
like it's very structured. You have verses and choruses and not a lot of soloing, not a lot of exploratory,
the songs
progressive songs.
The songs don't explore very much, and there's two big things for me. Now keep in mind that these two aspects of this album are things that may very well be the reason that the people that are liking this are liking them. So it's all opinion. It all comes back to what you want. Yeah. But the two big things to me are, first off, the tempos. If they were like 10 to 15 beats per minute faster, that would even be a little extreme. Maybe like 7 to 10 beats per minute faster. I would like these songs a lot more. But the whole time I'm listening to it, I feel like I'm just stumbling through the tracks. That combined with the second aspect, which is just the very lethargic vocals.
Yes.
They're so lazy sounding that it sounds like they don't care. And when the songs are so slow and presented just like this, it sounds like they don't care, and so it's hard for me to care.
I totally agree with that. The vocals just don't sell it.
No.
And I feel like that style of vocals really works well with the spacey exploration and then, guitar solos and maybe keyboard solos that you hear, because it kind of is washing in the background. The vocals aren't the point. The vocals are very much the point on this record, and I don't feel like they're good enough to warrant being the point. And that's the other thing, is that this album is just really, they don't give you enough to care about. They really don't. The guitar melodies are interesting, but usually they're just repeated over and over again, so you get bored with them and by the end of the song. And this isn't a long album. This record's like 34 minutes long, and there's numerous tracks on here that I think are just repeats and carbon copies of other tracks. Not perfect carbon copies, so maybe not carbon copies, but more just like slightly modified copy. Like
boron copies.
Yeah, boron. There you go.
I don't know if that's a thing. It's the element before it.
Now I'm thinking of Boron and Goron. Now I'm into Zelda. I just really want to go play Zelda.
Sorry, you don't want to sidetrack this guy.
Now I'm in fucking Hyrule. I mean, what can I do here? Tell me a bone, Tom. Anyways, another thing I want to point out is like all of our track picks are on the front half of this record.
It's true,
which is a really good sign that they're just reusing ideas. And God, there's just no excuse for it. This is a 34-minute album with 14 tracks on it, and to have any more than one track be weak on a 34-minute listen is really unacceptable to me at this point in time.
I agree.
You got to be better than the word. This is professional. So while this was a really intriguing sound, which is why we previewed it, liked it, and want to show it to you guys, I really came down on this from the first time I listened to it, and the more I dug in and realized how shallow this was as a record and an album listening experience, I just wanted to listen to it less and less, and I honestly can say I'm not going to come back to this. Now, that being said, I think that they presented it very well, and there's some decent tracks on here that I'm going to pick up and not come back to, because there's so many other tracks I'm going to come back to, but I would think that people would enjoy. I'm going to give this a 69.
I'm going 68.
Okay, so 69, your score doesn't matter. 69 from Velocities of Music. Anything in the upper 60s is an album that has some good traits, but there's a number of problems with it that we keep us from really putting our stamp of approval or recommending to you guys. However, if you're into this sound, this is something that you should still check out and see if you like it. Also, if you don't really care about the album listen and you just want some cool kind of neo-psychedelic music in, lo-fi indie rock, go listen to this and tell us what you think. Leave us a comment, www.velocitiesofmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesofmusic. As always, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and let Tom or myself know if there's any records that we could possibly review for you on this YouTube channel. We would love to do so. I'm Jay.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.